Hey there friends, I'm Andrew from the Scrapbox, and Lego just released images of their How to Train Your Dragon set. It's very cute. A lot of people really like it, a lot of people really don't like it, and I think that's because of the way it's styled. This is releasing in conjunction with the live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie. People who knew that there was going to be a toothless statue definitely did not imagine this Rescue Riders-esque toothless. They thought it was going to be an actual toothless. Not to say that's not toothless, but it's, you know what I mean. They wanted this, they got this. Now my question is, since so many people wanted an actual toothless statue or a toothless figure, can we make one? And the answer is, of course we can. That's easy. But can we make one that's minifigure scale? That's a bit harder. So let's get to it. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can keep up to date with all my weird projects. Alright, back to it. Designing a minifigure scale toothless. For some reason, I thought the best place to start would be the front legs. Probably because I instantly jumped to Toothless having these claw pieces as his toes. I tried a couple different designs to incorporate the claws and the weird bulbous nature of his forearms, but I eventually settled down with this collection of parts, which was good enough. The upper arm doesn't include a ball joint, but it does have a bar with a circular stud, mostly because ball joints have very limited color options, and anything not black is going to stick out on an all-black creature. The bar joint, when placed in a snot brick, does provide a stiff but flexible joint, and the round stud allows it to rotate in and out. It's a poor man's ball joint, if you will. I also tried to build the upper arm so it has an elbow that limits the forearm from swinging backwards, because Toothless doesn't need any broken limbs today. The back legs are remarkably similar, except they're slightly shorter with a more pronounced kneecap. Also, he has gray toes on this one because I'm all out of black claw pieces. I have so many pieces, but so few specific pieces. We've got all these legs and nowhere to put them, so it's time to create a body. Toothless has this sort of bean shape going on, and since I need it minifigure scale, it can't be more than 2 studs wide, just like horses. Also, just like horses, it needs a removable block so minifigures can saddle up. In the end, I've created this basic shape with attachments for all 4 legs, the head, tail, and both wings. Speaking of wings, this part is going to outrage a very select few for some inexplicable reason. I initially built this body scaled to perfectly attach this size wing, but Toothless portrays lots of emotions with body language. Thanks, Ursula. And these wings would limit movement to just up, out, and slightly at an angle. However, these smaller wings with hinge attachments allow for much more posing and emotion, but it does come at the cost of accuracy. I think Lego would definitely choose these ones though, so I picked them as well. And this has nothing to do with the fact that a single large black wing is $15 at my local shop, and this is just a one-day build.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Speaking of wings, again, I never realized Toothless had a second set of wing protrusions. So I'm adding them to the first segment of the tail using these angular wing pieces at angles. Because math. That doesn't look too bad if I do say so myself. Hopefully I don't spoil the whole thing with an illegal building technique. That tail piece can't go there. What are you, a cop? And Toothless is famously based off a cat, and a cat's motto is, if it fits, it sits. So the tail stays in there. Adding this bar piece gives me multiple attachment points to add Toothless's tail pieces. Normally, I'd like to tile things off, but the tail fins would become way too thick if I did that, so studded they stay. I did print this logo for the tail though, and in true Andrew Fumbles the Print Job fashion, it's off-center and crooked. But it's better than nothing. If you've been watching my recent videos involving brick build characters, I usually leave the head for last. Because it's difficult. And frankly, I'm a bit is that a... That's a knockoff piece. Anyways, I'm frankly a bit embarrassed because I make a point to never look up other people's mocks of things I'm designing because I don't want to subconsciously influence myself. And while I was making this, I felt so smug because I had figured out the perfect eyes for Toothless. This lime green Technic ball is the perfect match, and then I can just paint on some black pupils. Nobody had ever thought about this before. Except, they have. There's a pretty famous mock by Jaffa, who makes a much larger Toothless using these exact pieces. Oops. But I still managed to squeeze them into a much smaller head build, and though it's a bit big proportionally, it still works well enough. As you can see, I haven't painted the eyes due to foreshadowing, but I think if Lego made actual How to Train Your Dragon waves, they'd make something similar to this in scale and design. But Toothless is nothing without his riders, so let's make Hiccup. Over the course of the series, Hiccup goes through the biggest glow up in animated history. But since the live action is based on the first movie, we're designing awkward, lanky kid Hiccup. Luckily for us, he has a very straightforward outfit of a brown furry vest, green shirt, and a cloth belt. He also has some drawstrings on his sleeves and a sheepish can-do attitude plastered on his face. I'm gonna give him some dark green mid-legs as this is the first movie, therefore he's pretty young, but if we make further installments in the future, Lego does have this piece. This printing came out alright, but that shirt seems a bit fuzzy. Oh well. And finally, the two can unite. And while they do look very nice together, I see one glaring issue. Toothless is still way too big. Well, you know what they say, the best laid plans of mice and men. But what can we do? Make another one that's even smaller? But that would take up so much. Okay, fine, we're gonna make another one. Let's get to it. I think my big mistake was the fact that I started with the legs instead of the torso, and that allowed my scaling to skew over time. But because hindsight doesn't exist, and I'm incapable of learning from my mistakes, we're starting our new Toothless with the legs. Even though these legs are smaller, I was still able to give him a set of claws by stacking single claws sideways. This design will be the same for all 4 legs. However, the upper arms will differ as the front ones are extremely simple, and the back ones use curved pieces to condense the knee and thigh. We've already scaled this Toothless down so much just by slightly altering the leg designs. The front of this torso remains the same as the saddle area still needs to fit Hiccup. But I've made the back end a bit more compact while still fitting everything. The back wings will even make it into the body this time and not the tail.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I did have to limit the movement of the wings by using Technic bricks with the hinges, as the wings are almost too far back as they are, and ball joint clips would just push them back even further. Gotta add some lumps, bumps, and can't forget the legs. And then, I'm using the minifigure bat wings for the rear fins, and then it's time for the tail. Thankfully, this one doesn't use any illegal building techniques. And even more thanks to my wonderful Patreon members. Patreon is the best way to support my work and everything I do, and if you join, you gain access to cool things like Hiccup's character sheet for printing, instructions for Toothless, and so much more. Without my patrons, this channel wouldn't exist, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. The rest of the tail should seem pretty familiar as it follows the same basic instructions as before, but the fins are a lot smaller. And now we have space to add a little bit of a pointed tail. And now we must face the question, how difficult will it be to make a toothless head that's even smaller than before? It turns out very easy, barely an inconvenience. And now we have an even smaller Toothless. You can see just how small he is compared to the first one, making him much more accurate to the movies. And this Toothless seems to be even more dynamic than the first one. I could definitely see this being a $10 set that Lego puts out, which leads to the question, why didn't they? In fact, I just checked Pick-a-Brick and you could get all the pieces for just under $13. So maybe with Hiccup and a small build, it'd be a $15 set. Now that's a great Toothless. But if we've got Hiccup and Toothless and people were expecting some sort of Toothless statue, we've got to have a little stand for them to be on, right? So let's make a little stand. It's going to be nice, it's going to be simple, easy peasy, which is always the lie that I tell myself before spending 8+ hours on one little bit. Now for this part, I actually need your guys' help. The original plan was to have Toothless and Hiccup flying at the top of an arc, and then down below would be the ocean with a huge wave coming up to almost meet Toothless's tail. The tail would be connected to the wave via two 1x2 transparent bricks, which surprisingly enough made a pretty firm connection that could hold up the entire dragon. Then I came across a problem. I didn't have any regular blue arches for the smooth flow of the wave, and apparently blue arches are very difficult to come across. My second thought was to try to make the base out of slopes, and I really did try to give it a smooth motion. I even spent a good 2 hours on Studio slowly going insane, and I just don't think it's possible to get a smooth, good-looking wave without those arches. So, I want to know your ideas for a different base that would still make it look like they're flying. If you think of anything, please let me know down in the comments. And there you have it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If this video does well, maybe we'll make some of the other dragons. Stormfly? I really want to make Stormfly, but video production takes a lot of time and effort, and you saw 2 Toothless models today. The first one took a whole length of time, and then we kind of just threw it out. There's never enough time. So if you really want that, please let me know. Also, do the fun YouTube things, like and subscribe, of course. As always, I've been Andrew. You've been watching The Scrap Box. Have yourself a wonderful day, and if you meet a dragon in real life, don't try to train it. That's not, it will eat you. Okay, bye. Which one do you like more?